This is really trippy. So I deleted the other videos trying to explain this. I'll try to explain this again without using anyone else's names. Because that's why I had to delete the other videos, is because I don't want to rope anyone else into this. This is I can only speak for myself, and I can't tell everyone everything, but every world has people in it, but there's only one soul at a time that... How do I put this? Hold on. I just woke up and my mind is kind of scrambled. I'm trying to figure out all this stuff. I have experienced emotions that were so powerful that I almost died from them a bunch of times. And I'm not talking about having a heart attack or a panic attack. Although I have had those. I've had panic attacks. I haven't had a heart attack, but I've had panic attacks. But I've experienced emotions that were so powerful that I almost died from them. And some of those were religious experiences. And I believe what is happening is that, as so many people have said, yes, we are part of a simulation. This world is a simulation. And the point of it, like all dreams, is to prepare us for something that we don't necessarily have to go through, quote unquote, in real life. Like when I have a dream about a tiger in the bushes, it teaches me how to deal with that situation in real life. When I wake up, I'm then able to fend off the tiger in the bushes. I can either run away, or I can throw a fucking spear at it, or, whatever, or I can distract it and throw an apple off in some area and hopefully it goes after that instead of me. Something like that. But I learn from the dream. That's the point of it. Well, this dream is no different. The reason that we're all having this dream, the reason that we're all here, is so we can transcend and what I call crystallize. When we develop a belief system that is totally integrated, then we don't waver in the face of nothing, in the face of absolute darkness. We don't waver. We just have that faith with us. This dream is about bolstering our faith to the point of it being unbreakable. So, it's fractal also. When I wake up, when I transcend and I am having a lucid dream, when I wake up here and I have achieved transcendence while still alive, before I die, then when I die, I will have carried that transcendence with me. But the problem is, you guys, if this universe ends up eating itself, if it ends up destroying itself, if it ends up being a disintegrated group of disparate galaxies that drift apart into nothing, that's what I face. And thank God right now I'm not shivering in fear, because that's something that usually does make me quiver and quake. I don't, I'm going to be honest, I'm not the noblest guy. I'm not selfless. I'm not Christ. I'm not perfect. And I think that they put Christ, they, I think that every world gets a Christ in order to show us the way. And it isn't so much the case that I'm necessarily the Antichrist. It's that I'm not Christ, but I'm still trying to transcend. As far as everyone is concerned, there's. This is what I believe. I believe, and I know this is going to sound solipsistic, but it's not. It's not solipsistic. It sounds like that, but it isn't. I am the only soul here that is not a direct derivative of God. See, as creation expands, God's light envelops the darkness in bubbles. And when a soul first gets born, its peripheral skin is made of God's light directly. But its center is still nothing. And its volume is indiscernible. And because indiscernibility is globally static but locally fluctuating, therein lies the dream. Therein is the process of the soul transcending. So the center, if it is, doing the right thing, it expands. The center expands and unfolds. And if it unfolds enough, it will eventually touch the periphery, which is still made of that pure light. And as the soul unfolds, it dreams, and it goes through all of these transformations in this process. And during that, I believe, and this might fuck everything up, maybe I'm crazy, I hope I'm crazy, because this freaks me out to this day. It freaks me out. But I believe that in this universe, I'm the only one that is, how do you say it, lucid, where like all these other, if you're, like in your dreams, you're the lucid one, and then everyone else is like a derivative of you, or a derivative of something else, but they're definitely independent from you. But they're not independent from each other. They're interacting with each other in a way that you can't interact with them. And so I believe that it's not a test, it's like it's a process. And I believe that every person that's in this universe is sort of like a refraction of other bubbles, other souls, other universes out there in the multiverse landscape. And every person is the center of their own universe. In this universe, I'm the center. But in another universe, you're the center. And I'm a refraction in your universe. And so I'm not special in the sense that I'm the only one, etc. There's a multiverse landscape. And in each of these universes, there's one center, and then everybody else is, I keep saying the word refraction, which is, it's not a reflection, because it's not a direct exact reflection, it's a refraction. It's like bent in a way, and that has to deal with lensing, and that has to deal with the particular way that the soul develops over time. So in your guys' universes, I don't play a central role. I play a peripheral or like a voluminous role, or some kind of an auxiliary. I'm like an auxiliary character. I'm not exactly like, I'm not the main character. You are. In your universe, you're the main character. In my universe, I'm the main character. And everybody gets these, whatever you want to call it, universe, world, whatever you want to call it. In my world, I'm the main character. In your world, you're the main character. If the entire world eats itself and just dissolves and disintegrates, it brings everyone down with it. Now, if you've achieved transcendence, that will help you, but I believe that this is I believe that the way that this works is if I'm successful in transcending, that you'll see that, and then you'll understand how to transcend and become lucid, and you'll wake up in my world. And then you'll group together with other people that have transcended, the other people that have become lucid, the other people that have woken up, band together, create an integrated mass, and then it will grow, and it will, what I call, crystallize. And at the end of the universe, at the end of our lives, if everything has become crystalline, if everything has crystallized like it's supposed to, the next thing that we do after this is we refract God's light again into someone else's universe, in someone else's world. We co-create with God. We promote or refract or interact with God's light as it interacts with the nothing, the darkness. And we co-create with God to create new worlds, new universes. And then those universes go through the same process that we went through. And they do it again and again and again until they finally crystallize. And so it's not a sentence, it's not a test, it's not a punishment, it's not a simulation per se. It's not exactly anything that we have an analogy for. It's a process. It's part of a creative process, and it requires that we all, perfect. It requires that we all listen to each other, that we all care about each other enough that we can actually group together and integrate into a unity. If we succeed in that for ourselves, then we do it for others. It's pretty simple. So as we go through this process, the worst thing that we can do is freak out and distrust each other and start killing people, because if we do that, then we're not transcending, we're disintegrating. So there's two paths. There's integration, which is, like I said, it leads to transcendence, it leads to co-creation with God, it leads to the creation of new worlds. And then there's disintegration, which is the destruction of our own world and other people's worlds. And we don't want to go there, because that just leads back to darkness. And you don't want to know how long it takes for something to turn into nothing. And that's one of the things that, like I said, had caused me in the past to quake with fear, because the idea of disintegrating, not just my body, because my body is going to disintegrate at death no matter what I do. Not just my mind, because I've gone crazy and I've disintegrated my mind before, but disintegrating my very soul, the absolute base quintessential essence of my being, disintegrating. That's what hell is. And people go to hell because they don't trust the light. They don't trust God. They don't trust transcendence. They don't integrate. They disintegrate. Disintegration happens because we take a broken, finite, destructive being, ourselves, which is yet to be transcendent, which is yet to wake up, which is yet to understand. And we take that and it rips itself apart because it's trying to control everything, and it sees parts of itself as evil bits that need to get hacked off. And it sees other people as useless and valueless, and it sees situations that happened to it in its life as being wrong and being essentially useless and should never have occurred and stuff like that. And when people start doing that, when they judge themselves, each other, existence, and they say that it's wrong and it's evil and it shouldn't be there and it has no value, it causes disintegration. And this is something that we can feel in our own lives if we doubt that. That's something that you can look at throughout your life. No one ever became happy and successful and fulfilled by killing people and raping people and stealing from people and lying to people and all the evil things that we can think of. No one ever felt fulfilled by doing any of that. What it does is it destroys you so that you don't feel anything. You get closer to nothing. You don't get closer to everything. So the point of all of this is not, it's not pointless. We're not here to just float around in the ether and wait to die. There's a reason that we're here, and the reason that we're here is so we can integrate and we can crystallize, and then we can co-create with God and create new worlds. That's why we're here. And the reason that God does this is because creation is good. As God's light unfolds us, we bloom, we blossom, we grow, we learn, we get bigger, we get a deeper understanding of existence, and all of that is good. And as we distrust that light, distrust that growth, then we disintegrate and we get closer to nothing and we dissolve and we feel darkness and evil in our lives, and that's destructive. So there's construction and destruction, and we have to look forward to construction as best we can, because we're finite creatures. We're not going to become infinitely constructive like God is and just construct worlds that construct worlds that construct worlds that construct worlds, because that's what God does, and that's why everything's fractal. And if you don't know what fractal is, look up the Mandelbrot set, and there's the same shape that appears infinitely over and over and over and over. And the reason for that is mirroring the process of creation. There is an omniverse, which you would think of as being kind of like the original Mandelbrot set. And inside that omniverse, there's multiversal regions. And then inside those multiversal regions, there are an infinite number of universes, down and down and down and down and down and down and down forever to the absolute depths of God's being. And that's why it never ends. It's always there. So even if you fuck up and you disintegrate, it doesn't mean the end of the world forever. It just means the end of that part of you, that version of you, that version of you. And after we die, there's two things that happen. We do spend an eternity in either heaven or hell. But after that eternity, then we live again. So the Christians and the Hindus, the East and the West, are both correct and both incorrect. We have an eternity of, what we would consider to be an eternity, quadrillions and quadrillions of years, as the universe that we were born in either disintegrates or integrates. We go to either heaven or hell. So we go to heaven or hell collectively as a group. We don't go there individually. However, there's a ratio. There's a ratio such that if a person that was going to hell individually has a universe that's around them, a world that's around them, where everybody else goes to heaven, but they individually chose hell, let's say, what happens then? Well, what will happen in that case is that individual will go through the deconstruction of their own soul. Their soul will dissolve and disintegrate. But at the end of that, then they either have the chance to accept that the world was right and they were wrong, at which point they finally wake up, they become lucid, and they transcend after they've already gone through hell. Or they cease and they step out of it and they say, no, you know what, I don't even want to deal with this. And someone else comes in and and fills that gap, fills that void. In the meantime, everyone else in that world feels that. Now, they, being transcendent, can deal with it, but it still hurts. Very much like how God suffers, but isn't destroyed by our evil. And all of the worlds of that disintegrate. Because it's not just individuals. Entire worlds die inside of God. But God isn't destroyed, and God doesn't die. And God cannot die, because God's faith is unwavering. And so that is kind of like the context of what everything is here. It is a simulation. It is a simulation. And not only is it a simulation, it's a simulation within another simulation, within another simulation. And the only real reality then, if you wanted to call this a simulation, is God. And as we unfold, as we crystallize, as we integrate, as we perfect, we get more real, but we never become absolutely real. We just get more real, more real, more real, more real. And the more real that you get, the more intense everything gets. And it's not always a good thing. You can have intense things that are really fucking scary, like I've had. But you can also have really intense things that are really good, like I've had also. And, you know, it really does depend on how you look at it. It's extremely important within our own lives and beyond. And eventually, we will get to a point where we will crystallize this world, and we will then co-create with God. And again, that's not good or bad, full stop. It's not like the Christian version of heaven where every single moment of every single experience of every single thing is perfectly idealized for you and you alone, which would make absolutely no sense and no one can ever really figure out. If you sit with that thought for longer than half a second, it becomes completely insane. That's not really the way things work. But it's sort of like that. It gives you an idea. It gives you something to work with. But it just isn't exactly. There's a limit to everything. There's not really a way of describing exactly what the real reality is to someone who's in a dream. If you were trying to reach someone who was dreaming and you were awake and you were trying to, you know, kind of lightly tap, hey, you know, you can wake them up, but then they'll stop dreaming. But you can't reach them in the dream. I mean, you could say things in their general area, sort of like the sixth sense. You know, like somebody's dreaming and they're asleep, and you whisper, and you're a ghost, and you're like, pss, 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 pss. And then they're like, oh, okay. But they don't really experience it. They don't really, you can't really connect with them. It's jumping through some kind of a gate, and you can't really determine exactly the way that they're going to interpret that. And you can't really show them, like take a picture or a photograph and put it in their head. All you can do is sort of like whisper. And so there's a limit to the way that I can describe this in a way that would actually make sense. And this probably didn't make any sense. Hopefully it didn't. Because if it did, then, you know, people might freak out and go, oh my God, we have to force everyone to integrate so that we don't all have to endure hell at the end of our lives. But that's not that's not the way to do it. You can't force people to. And then that's even scary. Oh, well, if I can't force them to, then I just have to hope that everything's going to be okay. And that's why it's better to just be ignorant. Because if you do know this stuff, then you're stuck with knowing all the bad things that could happen to you, but having absolutely nothing to be able to stop it. You know that it could happen, but you have no control over whether it does or not. And that's horrifying and terrifying. So maybe it's just better that you think that I'm fucking crazy and you don't have any idea what the hell I'm saying. I didn't say anything. That's the real answer, is I'm just fucking crazy.